Hello, my name's Bev and I'm the author of the book Please Eat, A Mother's Struggle to Free Her Teenage Son from Anorexia, which describes our family's battle with the deadly eating disorder, anorexia nervosa, which my teenage son Ben developed back in 2009 when he was just 15 years old. Christmas is a particularly distressing time for families dealing with an eating disorder. While the world goes on as normal around them, with everyone celebrating Christmas and stocking up on food and drink, Christmas is a nightmare for everyone in the household, not least of which is the young person themselves battling with this destructive illness. At the end of 2011, I wrote a series of blog posts on my blog called The 12 Days of an Eating Disorder Christmas, and this particular recording is of the fourth day of Christmas, fourth day of an eating disorder Christmas. Thankfully, by the end of 2011, when I wrote this blog post, our son Ben was starting to recover from his eating disorder. There was, at last, a light at the end of the tunnel, although we had an awful long way to go before Ben reached it and before he recovered from his eating disorder. So, without further ado, I'll get on with this. This was written on the 28th of November 2011 and is called On the Fourth Day of Christmas. The eating disorder gave to me 4 months until treatment. It wasn't until the end of October 2009, 2 months on from when the eating disorder first started to visibly manifest itself, that our GP reluctantly and finally agreed to refer Ben for treatment. You see, Ben was skinny, yes, but to a GP that had never seen him as a muscly, athletic prop forward in the school rugby team. A skinny teenage boy wasn't that unusual. Nor was a teenager who appeared to have gone off the rails mentally. After all, teenage angst was common. I got the feeling our GP felt that I was an unnecessarily overprotective mother. Naively, I thought we'd get treatment right away. Everything in my being was crying out that our case was urgent. Ben was physically disappearing before our eyes and had changed from the happy social boy he used to be into a mental wreck who often seemed to have gone insane. It was a shock to find out that we might have to wait until Easter before our first appointment. What the heck were we supposed to do between now and then? How much further would Ben hurtle down the rabbit hole? How much longer would it take to pick up the pieces and remould Ben once we finally did see a specialist team? In the lead up to Christmas 2009, I knew I couldn't just sit there and watch Ben deteriorate. I had to do something. Luckily, we had a little bit of private medical insurance we could draw on. Just £500 was available for mental health issues, but it was better than nothing. So the search was on to find private treatment to fill the gap between now and our first NHS appointment with the CAMS team. And CAMS stands for Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. Not only did virtually no one in the local private sector have any experience of eating disorders, but, being Christmas, they were all fully booked up until well after the New Year. Initially, we managed to get an appointment with a rather strict and stern old-school psychiatrist. I knew it was a mistake from the moment we walked into the room, and he formally indicated that we should be seated opposite his large desk. I felt as if we were revealing our innermost secrets, feelings and fears to the CEO of a multinational corporation, not a compassionate doctor. That single-hour session cost me half of our £500 medical cover. The slightly good news was that this guy did point us towards a therapist who worked out of the local private health centre, the kind of place you go for physio, hypnotherapy and so on. It was in deep snow when we first went to see Jay. I immediately took a liking to her, and I think Ben did too. I knew we could get on with this woman. The only problem was, and it was a huge problem, was that it quickly became clear that the eating disorder was even bigger than I'd thought it was, in that no way could one person cure it with a handful of weekly therapy sessions. Jay made this very clear to us, and I really appreciated her honesty. Between then and Christmas, we trudged through the snow to meet Jay weekly until we ran out of money and she ran out of availability because of the holidays, followed by a career change. In between sessions, she'd email and phone me to talk things over. Although I knew she could do no more than attempt to plug the hole in the sinking Titanic with a Band-Aid, she did her level best, and I really appreciated that. She also said she'd see if she could pull a few strings with CAMS. She used to work with CAMS and felt they'd take her seriously when she insisted Ben needed urgent treatment. I don't know whether or not she was successful, because later in the new year something was to happen which did bring our CAMS treatment forward when Ben was rushed into hospital with a pulse rate of 29. That's the end of that particular blog post. You can find a link to my blog below, and also a link to my website, which includes a page where you can download free PDFs of my blog. You can also find a link to my book on Amazon.